Yo, what's going on, y'all? This is my first reaction video. Gotta bring the mic over here. This is my first reaction video and shit. We won't see what's up. Swamp Stories. I've been watching a lot of this shit lately, so we won't see what's up.
To another episode of Swamp Stories. For this video, we cover one of the wildest stories in New York history. It's not exactly the biggest topic, nor does it cover any celebrities, but trust me, these storylines are unmatched. It's the story of one of the boldest men in the Bronx paired with one of the coldest officers we've ever seen. It's safe to say that this is a good one. But before we get into it, let me run the intro.
Wait, 1 second right there, little niggas out playing for I come and air it out. I don't give a fuck, you know. It's like,
The story begins in the Dominican Republic, an island located in the middle of the Caribbean.
I was just over there, motherfucker, and them niggas, them niggas is yeah, it's like that out there. Just know that.
Unfamiliar, the DR has been one of the poorest countries in the Western Hemisphere for quite some decades. And to make matters worse, in the 1960s, political turmoil caused a massive exodus. Supporters of one political party feared retaliation from the new leader and they figured that they needed to leave. So starting
Oh yeah, you know I gotta light that thingy thing up, you know? Yeah.
around 1963, thousands of Dominicans began immigrating to America. Over 50% settled in New York City, with the vast majority settling in the Bronx. Slowly but surely, over the next 3 decades, the Bronx had become 15% Dominican. For reference, that's 210,000 people. Well, coincidentally, during this period, the Bronx was one of the wildest places in America. The streets were filled with crime and there was major rivalries between neighborhoods. Unlike LA, where there was massive gangs, in the Bronx it was one blocker project versus another blocker project. I say that to say that the Dominicans had no unified presence. Instead, they abided by the Bronx politics. In the streets, this worked out fine, but in the system, this was a problem. In Rikers Island, the Dominicans were outnumbered by major organizations. With the presence of the
I heard Rikers Island is one of them jails. That shit is like the equivalent to San Quentin in California and shit.
Latin Kings, BGF, and the Crips, the Dominicans had a major problem on their hands. That's when 2 Dominican inmates came up with a solution. These would be Leonidas Sierra, also known as Junito, and Julio Marin, also known as Caballo. In 1992, they created the Trinitarios, all for self-protection. Well, as the Trinitarios grew in Rikers Island, they also spread into the streets. Throughout the 90s and 2000s, they gained a dangerous reputation, known as one of the most ruthless to ever hit the Bronx. Because they originated in prison, the nature of the Trinitarios was very structured. The top rank is known as the Primera, who's essentially the biggest shot caller. And second in line is known as Segundo, the man who relays his messages. Well, long story short, a bunch of Trinitario sets formed throughout the city, each having their own Primera. And the biggest and most powerful set happened to form in Brooklyn, specifically Sunset Park. They became known as the Sunset Trinitarios, led by one of the most feared men in all of New York. This would be a man named Ediberto Santana, also known as Flaco. Flaco was a Primera leader, but completely unlike the rest. He called himself La Suprema, a position he
I wonder if that's why Flacco called himself Flacco.
created above a Primera. His idea was for Sunset to spread and each have their own Primeras, all calling up to him. This structure went against the Trinitario rulebook, but like I said, Flaco was different. Starting around 2010, Flaco made it his mission to bring the Sunset Trinitarios into the Bronx. This would not be a walk in the park, as they'd have to face the Latin Kings and Dominicans don't play. But on top,
You know, I never knew it was that many fucking, like, these sets in fucking New York. Like, I knew about the people that's there now. Like, I never knew about, like, these people. Like, I know, like, the K-Flock people and all that. I know that just from them rapping and shit like that. But this should go deep. This should go back to the 90s and all that shit, to early 2000s and shit. I didn't even know all this shit. Like,
This, the Sunset expansion was unnecessary as the Trinitarios already existed in the Bronx. Flacco's expansion was unprecedented, but he really wanted to be the king of all sunsets throughout the city. Well, this right here did not sit well with the Bronx Trinitarios. They told him that they didn't need the sunsets and to stay back in Brooklyn. Flacco simply did not care and was willing to go against his own gang if that's what it took. So in 2011, Flacco sent his men into the Bronx to recruit, and if that didn't work, he told them to send messages. Sadly, it's alleged that over the next 2 years, Flacco claimed the lives of 3 Bronx Trinitarios.
Hold up, y'all.
Flacco would be arrested, but not for many years down the line. In the meantime, he brought the Sunset Trinitarios into the Bronx and made them a powerful force. He became a feared character in the Bronx, and Trinitarios were afraid to go against him. Over the next couple of years, he created 2 official Sunset neighborhoods in West Bronx. These would be Fordham down to 184th, and on the other side, Fordham down to 182nd. Quickly, they both became the most hated in the area as no one around them liked them. This is because La Suprema had them on go, stepping on anyone who got in their way. Essentially, the members had no free will as they did whatever they were told. The constant following of orders from La Suprema gave no room for individuality. While one particular Sunset Trinitario was not too thrilled about how things were going. This would be a young member named Andrew Dunn, also known as
Nigga look like a demon. Look like you on go. Look like you ready to smoke. You look like you ready to smoke a tree. Let your cat be stuck up in the tree. You gonna smoke it. You gonna fucking switch that tree, nigga.
Caballo was a certified stepper in the Bronx and was well liked by all of his fellow members. Well, around 2017, Caballo began telling them about his frustrations. He even expressed ideas of quitting and starting his own hood. Some members were on board with him, but others were afraid to cross Flacco. Regardless, after months of convincing, Caballo finally got enough members to join him and do the
I'm a dickhead, like a super dickhead. I should have charged my iPad. Little side note.
unthinkable. In 2018, Caballo and a small crew of Sunset Trinitarios broke away and started their own gang. Caballo named them the Shooting Boys, also known as SB. He then chose a territory in a main block, one of the only unclaimed areas of the Bronx. Their main block would be on 155 Caesar Place, but they claimed everything around Devo Park. If you look on a map, this is only a few blocks away from the Sunset Trinitarios. And why this matters? Well, after they broke away, the Sunset Trinitarios were not too thrilled. Right off the bat, the SBs were rivals with their former brothers, on top of everyone they used to beef with. This now made the Shooting Boys the real EBK of the West Bronx. No one liked them, and certainly no one was willing to click up with them. Because of this, their members had to be fearless and willing to risk it all. So let me introduce you to the original members. First, you obviously have Andrew Dunn, also known as Caballo. Then beside him are 2 rappers, Reality RD and Vladdy SB. Then there's the main steppers. You have Victor Almonte, also known as Flacco.
That nigga look. Oh yeah, that's Flacco.
Then you have Moises Fontanez, also known as Goya. Then there's Joel Ortiz, also known as Brooklyn. Wander Rivera, also known as Siru. And
them niggas up the Bronx, they don't even have guns, nigga. They'll pull out a machete, nigga. They'll pull out a motherfucking kitchen knife on you and make you give it up. And nigga, you gotta give it up, but they gonna fucking stab you, cut your head off, all that type shit, bro. Like real shit.
Finally, Ramon Rodriguez, also known as Pollo. Together, these guys were absolutely the most hated in the region. Because of this, the SBs were ultra aggressive and always making sure that no one unfamiliar was lingering on their turf. June 9th, 2019. It's an ordinary summer night in the Bronx, and Caballo and 2 members are hanging out on the
Them summer nights, boy, let me tell you. Them summer nights when you just want to chill with your homies on the steps, nigga, right in front of your crib, nigga. And this nigga pull up. And this nigga pull up right here. Game over, nigga. Wasted. You might as well put that GTA shit up there, bro. Wasted, nigga, because he gonna pull up to you with a knife. And you gonna think it's all, you know what I'm saying? You got a knife, I could wrestle that shit out of his hand. Hell no. You gonna wind up fucking on the ground, nigga. bleeding the fuck out, looking up at your homies for help, and they running away from you. Cause they looking like
Block. As you would expect, the members are watching cars go by and constantly checking the corners. At 9 p.m., Caballo and Flaco Capone notice something strange. They spot an unfamiliar man at the end of the block. The members then look at each other and get suspicious. So together they walk down to the corner to confront the man. They ask him what he's doing there and he responds, "I'm just hustling." For years, this was neutral territory in the
I'm just hustling. That's probably the worst thing to say.
Bronx, and the guy clearly has no idea that the SBs are claiming it. Regardless, Caballo sees this as disrespect and he wants to prove a point. So he presses the man aggressively until the point where he turns around to run away. And that's when Caballo makes a wild decision. Bang! Thankfully, the man was okay after being rushed to the hospital. But sadly, this is how the SBs began making a name for themselves in the Bronx. This may seem like a normal occurrence in Chicago, but this is New York where incidents like this are very rare. And what's even
No bullshit. Up in New York, you even have a gun, you getting 10, 20 years. Just for having it. Let you not have a license and the cops catch you with the gun, bro. It's over. You might as well hang that shit up. But they gonna give you 10 or 20 just for a fucking strap. That's why these niggas in the Bronx walk around with the machetes and shit, you know what I'm saying? But these niggas was getting busy. Keep it being.
crazier is that Flaco Capone and Caballo were able to get away with this for the time being. And after getting away with this, they made it their mission to start bullying the Bronx. And that takes us to 2 weeks later, June 23rd, 2019. It's a Sunday evening in the Bronx and the Sunset Trinitarios are posted up on 182nd and Grand Concourse. Well, once the SBs get word of this, they order a young member to go make a statement. This would be Malvin Restudio, a cold young member. 7:15 p.m. Malvin walks from Caesar Place all the way down to 182nd with nothing but mayhem on his mind. When he arrives to the corner, he sees nothing but Sunset Trinitarios, and without hesitation, he lets loose. Thankfully, he pulled a Ben Simmons and everyone was okay, but regardless, this set the tone for the new rivalry. However, after doing this, the SBs had something else in mind. They needed money, and this was a struggle because no one in the Bronx would ever work with them. So to solve this problem, Caballo and Goya came up with a plan. Everyone in the Bronx knew not to trust them, so they started making connections across state lines. In the early summer of 2020, they formed an online relationship with a plug in suburban New Jersey, specifically in a small town called Southbrook Mound. Well, the SBs convinced the man to meet up and make a deal inside of his hometown. July 6, 2020. Caballo and Goya leave the Bronx at 6 p.m. and head down Interstate 95.
You already know where this is going. You already know where this is going, cause these niggas went to New Jersey. Let me just play the video. I already know what's coming.
7:15, they arrive in Southbrook Mound and text the man. They tell him to meet them in a parking lot behind a
Them fucking gas stations, bro. Them fucking gas stations, bro. That's why I never sit in the car at the fucking gas station. I don't even care, bro. I'm getting the fuck out there, you know.
gas station. The man agrees and instantly heads over. At 7:35, he arrives and parks right next to them. They then direct him into the back seat of their car. After talking for a minute, Caballo and Goya whip out and tell him to give them everything he has. The terrified man agrees and they ruffle through his stuff. After getting what they want, they direct him out of the car and they drive back to the Bronx. Just like that, the SBs finally had a bit of money, and now it was back to their old ways. After scoring big, Goya was ready to score again, just in a different way. July 31st, 2020. It's a hot Friday afternoon in the Bronx, and the Trinitarios are outside on 182nd. When Goya gets news of this, he instantly hops in his car and drives down to the block. At 5:30 p.m., he arrives on 182nd and hops out. Thankfully, he pulled a Westbrook and everyone was okay. The incident was one of many in the Bronx during the summer of 2020, which was one of the worst periods in almost a decade. Because of this, NYPD decided to send peace and safety units across the Bronx. Each precinct would deploy a crew of officers who would walk around, talk to people, and try to maintain the peace.
it's like these niggas is really like that, but they missing, like, they missing they Vic, bro. They just, that's how innocent people get shot too. When these niggas just shooting buckets and shit. I mean, not buckets. They shooting bricks. They shooting bricks and shit. And that's how innocent people get killed. That's how motherfuckers be getting killed. Fucking 2 blocks away, 3 blocks away, whatever, nigga. These niggas just shooting wildly. They probably got switches on their gun, and you know that shit go. Like, you know what I'm saying? These niggas. But they like that though. Don't get it twisted. They really,
Well, for the 52nd Precinct, the crew was led by a very controversial officer. This would be Officer Gina Mestre, who's known for her good looks, but also her terrible track record. In under 7 years of being an officer, Gina racked up 34 complaints about misusing her power and breaking laws. She also cost the taxpayers over $1 million in 10 separate lawsuits. Well, given this, assigning Gina to patrol the SB area was a recipe for disaster. And what do you know, over the summer of 2020, Gina formed a relationship with one of the men she was supposed to watch out for. This happened to be Caballo, the Riz God himself. Long story short, Gina and Caballo started dating in August of 2020. At first, SB members were skeptical, assuming that Gina was using him to get information. However, Caballo was sure that this was the real deal and that Gina was on his side. How he knew this? Well, Gina was sending him
these niggas got the police to help them, bro. New York police at that. And you know they probably the most corrupt next to the fucking LAPD and shit. Like, you got the New York City Police Department in your pocket, nigga? You talk about game over. You might as well just put that wasted shit. You might as well start making shirts, bro.
Classified police information and warning him of potential raids. She even told him to lay low because police had their eyes set on the SBs. So Caballo and his fellow members decided to chill out for the time being. But then
it's like the police, dog. They got you low at every time, bro. Anytime they want you, they can find you.
News would come their way. November 4th, 2020.
All the cop bitch gotta do is drop the low, like. And she not like she be patrolling the area, so she know where like that's crazy, bro.
It's a regular fall day and the SBs are deep outside in front of Devo Park. All of the high-ranking members are having fun outside like they aren't the most hated in the city. Well, little do they know, 2 cars full of rivals are driving their way at 8 p.m. At 8:15, the cars park on the corner and the rival members hop out. They then run inside the park with no hesitation. 2 unnamed SB members were hit, but thankfully they both made it. Regardless, Caballo was pissed and he wanted revenge as soon as possible. He instantly texted Gina and informed her that he wanted to go get revenge. She smartly told him to lay low until the smoke clears on the investigations. But Caballo was too angry and he could not wait to get back. Here is where things get interesting. The next day, November 5th, 2020, 9 a.m. Caballo puts on a blue hoodie, a black
RP King Von, it's the same day Von got killed.
Black puffer and a black hat. He leaves his apartment with no mask.
Or was it the 6th? Yeah, it was the 6th. Or the 5th? It was the 6th. It was like 12 o'clock at night.
Hops in his white Toyota and drives to his destination. He heads down Highway 87 to the neighborhood Mount Eden. He then parks and walks down Cromwell Avenue, a street with nothing but car repair shops. As he's walking down the street, he's looking for one particular car, a black Acura MDX with tinted windows. At 9:41, he spots the MDX in front of a van, so he instantly reaches into his pocket and runs up to the car. As it turns out, Angel was a Trinitario rapper by the name of Jayla Sombre. This was a devastating loss for the Sunset Trinitarios, especially as Caballo used to be his friend. Well, the next day, Officer Gina sends Caballo surveillance footage that clearly shows his face. However, because the incident took place in the 44th precinct, the local officers did not recognize his face. And as you would expect, Gina decided not to intervene. But she did tell Caballo that it's only a matter of time, and if they do ask her, she will have to identify him. Well, that day would come and the surveillance was brought to Gina. Right away, Gina texted Caballo and told him to get the next flight out to the Dominican Republic. So Caballo fled the country that same night and decided to hide out in the
Nigga really got up out of there. See, that's the key to having a motherfucking cop as like in your front pocket, nigga. They'll tell you, you know what I'm saying, chill, go out of state real quick, go out of town real quick, man. You gotta get away. It's too hot right now. Like that's the benefit. That's crazy. See, that shit crazy, bro.
DR.
He got up out of there, probably came back, you know what I'm saying, ready to smoke shit again.
And that's when Gina had to officially identify the man in the video as Andrew Dunn. After this, Gina and her crew served multiple warrants throughout the Bronx as she pretended to not know where he is. They then searched his flight history and found that he had fled to the DR. From there, police searched for him, but for whatever reason, he kept being absent during their raids. This would continue for quite some time. In the meantime, the SBs would be without their commanding leader. But this did not mean that their presence in the streets was done by any means. And that takes us to June 20th, 2021. It's a Sunday night in New York and the SBs are looking to go have some fun. They know it's not safe for them to party in the Bronx, so instead they head out to a safer location. At 12:30 a.m., 3 SB members head to a popular club on West 207. These would be Wander Rivera, also known as Ciru, Edward Perez, also known as Perico, and Ramon Rodriguez, also known as Pollo. Well, at 1 a.m., the young rowdy members arrive at the club and begin walking around. While strolling through the club, one of the members notices a shiny watch on somebody's wrist. This happens to be an iced out Audemars Piguet, also known as an AP. The member instantly recognizes that it's an expensive watch, so he relays the information to his fellow members. Instantly, all intentions of having fun are thrown out the window. Now, all they want is the watch. So quickly, they leave the club and hop in their car. This is where they group together, put their masks on, and think about what they're gonna do. At 2:15, they finalize their plan and decide to park their car across from the club. The members patiently wait for the man to come outside for 2.5 hours. Then it
Waiting 2.5 hours for your op. Crazy. They really wanted boy dead, like.
4:40, the man with the watch finally walks outside with his friend. The man whose name is Milton Grant then walks to the parking lot and hops in his beautiful car, a satin-wrapped BMW 7 Series. Oh my goodness. Well, Milton then drives down Vermilea Avenue headed for Dyckman Street. This is a strip full of popular takeout restaurants. Little does Milton know the crew of SB members are following behind him. At 4:45, Milton double parks on Dyckman, and that's when the SB members pull beside him. 2 members hop out and demand Milton to get out of the car. Milton instantly hits the gas to drive away, but that's when the members make a devastating decision. After doing this, Pollo grabs the AP and they all head back to the Bronx. As it turns out, Milton Grant was a successful businessman, a father of 2, and a loving husband. At the time being, NYPD had no clues for solving the case.
All that for a watch, bro. These niggas plotted to get him. Waited 2 hours outside. Followed him. When he hit the gas, they smoked it. For the AP.
At this point, the SBs were completely untouched
Hey man, I would've just threw that bitch out the window, huh? Take that shit.
by the law. Caballo was successfully hiding out in the DR, and the young members were getting away with wild acts such as this. This would last for another 9 months until NYPD started to put everything together. The first Shooting Boys indictment. On March 31st, 2022, 10 members were arrested on 15 felony counts. On this day, dozens of raids were served throughout the Bronx and 9 members were arrested and apprehended. Only 1 man remained, the one who NYPD had their entire focus on. Caballo was still hiding out in the DR, and for whatever reason, he was never there when the raids were taking place. This became a game of cat and mouse, as Caballo was always 1 step ahead. But finally, in late April, Caballo was found by U.S. Marshals. In typical New York fashion, all 10 members were sentenced pretty quickly, and the major headlining news came on November 17, 2022. Caballo pled guilty to the event on November 5, 2020 and received 35 years to life. After this takedown, police were still not satisfied for multiple reasons. Number one, they were skeptical on how Caballo kept ducking every raid. He's either a genius or someone from the department had to be helping him out. But wait, we're not quite there yet. In the meantime, 4 SB members were still left on the streets. These would be Ciru, Perico, Pollo, and Flatty SB. Without their large squad of members, the remaining guys knew that they needed to lay low. And that takes us to New Year's Eve. December 31st, 2022. As you know, everyone in New York City is partying on this night, but for the SBs, they know
They
that
wanted to catch a fucking body, nigga. They wanted to fuck all that. You know, all them niggas downtown square got the white people kissing and shit. Oh, the ball dropping and all that. No, fuck that, nigga. We sliding on the ops, nigga. Fuck what you talking about? You know what I'm saying? Because they know all the cops gonna be down. They know all the cops gonna be down downtown square and shit. They already know that's where they at. That's why they was, man, I'm sliding, nigga. Fuck what you talking about?
Especially after the indictment. If they stay in the Bronx, the chances that they have to do something or something is done to them is very high. So instead, they head across state lines to the city of Elizabeth, New Jersey. The city is about 45 minutes away, but it's definitely no walk in the park. The only reason they're there is because they know they won't run into rivals. Or will they? 3 a.m. After a night of partying, the SB members walk outside onto 1st Street in Elizabeth. Vladi SB casually walks down the street to his car, but right there is a man in a mask.
Oh shit.
This was the first major loss for the SB.
These niggas, bro, these niggas went to New Jersey thinking they was safe and they ops called them in Jersey. This shit get deep.
And it definitely took them by surprise. How did the rivals know where he was? Well, after the indictment and this incident, the SBs were depleted and on their last days. Only 3 members were really left, Ciru, Perico, and Pollo. Because they ducked the major indictment, they figured that they were in the clear for the Dykeman incident. But in New York City, everything will eventually be solved. After studying surveillance footage, the police were able to track the 3 members back to the incident. And finally, after nearly 2 years, police were able to put it all together. On April 19th, 2023, Ciru, Pollo, and Perico were all arrested. Today, they're currently in trial facing 35 to life. Because it was such a devastating incident, this was a major accomplishment by NYPD, and they weren't done just yet. Yes, after all of the SB members were taken down, they still wanted to know how Caballo was ducking the raids. And after a major internal review, they found out that Gina and Caballo had a relationship. However, this in nature is not a crime, instead just a violation of the codes of conduct. Because there was no basis for an arrest, police simply made Gina resign from her position. But due to her bad reputation, police were not satisfied with this result. So they got a warrant to look through her phone, and this is when their minds were blown.
They looked through that phone, motherfucker. They looked through that phone and
first they discovered that Gina was informing Caballo about department investigations. Then they discovered that she was even telling him about who was cooperating from rival hoods. To make matters worse, Gina was giving him the names of witnesses in SB cases. As you may be aware, this is classified information and definitely a felony in the state of New York. She put innocent witnesses who were simply doing their civic duty in major harm's way, all while making $130,000 of taxpayer money a year.
she was getting over. She was getting over, bro. Holy shit.
As they scrolled through her timeline, they found the text of her informing Caballo about the raids and when to leave town. All of this led the department to charge her with 4 felony counts. She holds 1 count of racketeering, which amounts to a maximum of 20 years in prison, 1 count of conspiracy to obstruct justice, which carries a maximum sentence of 5 years, then a count of conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, which carries a sentence of 20 years, and finally 1 count of accessory to murder, which carries a maximum of 15 years.
Bro,
so
she's cooked. She's cooked. Get her out the way. She's up there. She's up there for
safe to say that Gina is cooked. Once again, after another New York video, I'm simply impressed with NYPD. They seem to solve everything, even internal affairs. As for the SBs, I can't quite assume that they're done for good. You simply never know who's coming up in the next generation. But
Man, this was a crazy fucking story. I'ma tell you now. They had the motherfucking cop lady really in their back pocket, giving them the lows, telling them when to get the fuck out of town, when to get the fuck out of Dodge. She was really like, she was telling them who was snitching and shit. And she was taking taxpayers' bread. Like, she's really like, she got sent up there though. They cooked her ass. They cooked her in fucking canola oil, nigga. They cooked her. Real rat. No. I'm gonna be doing more reaction videos. My name is Leaf is Dope. You know what I'm saying? I'm new to the reaction shit. We're gonna get it bustin'. We're gonna get it poppin'. Subscribe, like, comment, all that shit. Like this shit. So this motherfucker could be in your algorithm and shit. You could algorithm the algorithm and shit. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I'll holla at y'all in the next